So Valentine's Day is upon us. Yeah. Well, I'm single, but that's beside the point. What I thought, though, is that I had a couple of parts that were kind of ganging up, including a new budget case that's pink. I had some red sticks of memory, a pink video card. Why don't we make a Valentine's Day build? Okay, there's no rhyme or reason for this build other than the fact that it's Valentine's Day and I had a bunch of parts that were pink and red, and I thought it would be an okay idea. I thought I had the parts. Let's see what they look like together, right? So we're going to start this off. It's going to be with a Core i3. This is a 10100 or 10105F. It does not have a graphics solution on. It's 4-core, 8-thread, runs at 3.7, I think it is 3.7 gigahertz. Pretty decent CPU. And I do have a video that's doing some benchmarks and all that stuff. I don't know if that's going to be before or after this video, but it should be around the same time frame, so we'll take a look at it. I'm testing that with a whole different setup. Well, not a whole different setup, but separate enough so I can get real results out of it instead of just, putting together a theme type build. Asus Prime B560M-A, I think it is. Yeah, -A. I'm not sure what the A stands for, but I do know that the M at the end of it stands for a micro ATX. This will fit in pretty much any case, not a small form factor case like the Cooler Master I've got. That's a bit much smaller case, but this is a pretty compact motherboard. It works pretty well, and it does a very good job for what it is. I'm pretty happy with it. We're pairing that with 16 gig of Crucial Ballistix running at 3,000 megatransfers per second. Pretty decent. I've used this. I got one of these in my sister's pre-built. I swapped it out with some TeamGroup 2 sticks instead of just the 1 8 gig stick. Found another one on eBay. We're going to match these up. These come from almost identical lot numbers, so I got pretty lucky there. For the video card, we're going to go with an RX560. Yep, no power needed on this one. We're doing the RX560. This is a 4 gig, and surprisingly enough, it's pink. It's made by a company called Yeston, and I guess it was their 20th anniversary, and I hope that shows up, that pink color shows up okay. And then we're going ahead and put this in an ES Gaming budget case that I recently picked up, which is pink and has RGB. So I'm going to put all these together and see what they look like, and we'll maybe run a couple of games and see how it performs. Why not? So it's a couple of days later, and I think we're going to mark this one down as a fail. Not a horrible fail, but a fail nonetheless. And I had promised months and months back that I wasn't going to do just the things that worked out. I was also going to show you guys the fails. So here we go. The first of these isn't really due to the build itself, but more the parts having, well, all right, there's a couple things that have to do with the parts that are in the build. The motherboard. The B560 seems to, for some reason, have less USB on it than the older B450 for the AMD chip. I'm not really sure what the thing here is. Both of these are Asus. Both of these are mini ITX or mini ATX boards, basically the same series. They're the 60 series boards for each company, or the mid-tier boards, the 50 series for the AMD, the 60 series for the Intel. But basically they're the same series of board. They should be pretty close, and well, they're not. Still, I got some things I can do to get around that. I do have a PCI card that has some USB 3.0 if I really need it. But then again, given the limited amount of USB that we're using on the case on the front and the limited on the back, doesn't give me a whole lot of ports. Other than that, though, putting it in went pretty easily, except for, playing around with the cooler. That Intel cooler always gives everybody problems where you have to try to push it in, twist it, and I can never remember which direction to twist it in. But anyway, everything else went pretty well. The NVMe, there is one thing that I had to do there. I was trying to use the top slot, which is actually the 4.0, the PCI Gen 4 slot. I've got 3.0 evidently on the NVMe drive, so I had to put it in the second slot without having to adjust the BIOS and all that stuff, but I didn't feel like doing all that. So I did end up putting it, instead of the top where it's shown in most of these videos, I did put it in the second one, which is underneath the video card. Still, that worked out okay. The case is a different story. Now, the biggest problem that I had, or one of the bigger problems with this case, was that the space in between the motherboard tray and the back panel is just really, really narrow. There's not enough room to put the cables. I mean, you have to be creative trying to fit them in there and put them in there very flat. The other part of that is there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of room if I were to try to put an SSD or, say, a lighting controller or anything like that back there. Very, very thin amount of room, or a very narrow amount of room. And it's not, I mean, they could have been, just a little bit of extra space would have really, really gone a long way here. The case seems to be wide enough for it, but the tray, the motherboard tray is just set too far back, and it doesn't give you enough room to get some proper clearance in there and make cable managing easier. I was able to do it, but it was a little bit of a challenge. The other thing was, this is supposed to be an RGB case with an RGB fan and an RGB light strip in the front. Fail. The fan does work. However, the RGB strip and the RGB on the fan do not work at all. I did go back and check the connections. I did verify that what I had was what I'm supposed to have. I tested to make sure I had 5 volts on. It didn't work. That strip is bad, and the light doesn't come on at all, no matter how I try to plug it up or test it in another system. So on these cases, I did leave feedback, but in this case, some of the reviews were very bad, and a lot of them had to do with the RGB lighting. So, I kind of got what I paid for, but I'm not going to send it back because I probably will try to put some other kind of RGB solution in there. I think I can order a strip off of Amazon for like, I don't know, $13 or $14, and I can control it from the motherboard. So, we'll figure that out. I got what I paid for. I'm okay with it. It's not horrible. Yeah, it'll work, and it'll do what it needs to do. As far as the setup and the gameplay and using it, that went actually pretty well. I tested a handful of games, including Witcher 3, Dirt 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and even a little bit of CSGO. And I found that for the most part, this setup, and the main thing that holds it back is the RX560, the 4 gig, but this setup gets right around 30 frames per second in 1080p medium. The medium settings gives me almost 30. It's between, say, 25 and 30 frames per second, with the low settings actually giving me just a little bit more than 30 frames per second. That was consistent when I was playing The Witcher 3. Obviously a little bit below and then a little bit above 30, which is fine for a game of that speed and that style. For Dirt 5, even though on medium settings, I ran it on medium settings, the benchmark gave me 27 frames per second. Gameplay was between about 28 and 30. Worked out pretty well. I didn't have any issues. No stuttering, no drops, no hang-ups. It was a really pretty enjoyable experience playing. And, like I said, it was about 30 frames per second, and that's about what a console would be, so not bad. I didn't really want to turn the visual settings down on this because I liked it being at 1080p, and I could get some decent gameplay out of it at 30 frames per second on the medium 1080p. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, same way. Just a little bit below. The benchmark gave me 27 frames per second. Gameplay gave me around 30 frames. I was pretty happy with that. I couldn't really complain, especially on a game that, even though it's an older title, it is pretty demanding. And then when I ran CSGO, I didn't picture it here, sorry, but the benchmark gave me 111 frames per second, and gameplay was more like 150 frames per second. So I was actually really pretty happy with that. I can't complain. That worked out really, really well. And it proves that this isn't such a bad system. It is still a fail, though. Mainly because the accent, the RGB lighting and all that stuff doesn't give the pop to the case and the setup that I would have hoped it would have. Some problems with the case itself, some problems with the motherboard, not having enough I/O, the USB on it, having to change the NVMe. Just a lot of things that added just a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there. And if I really did try to get this out to somebody for Valentine's Day, I started the project on Saturday. Valentine's Day was yesterday. So, yeah, wouldn't have made it. It would have been a little bit late. But, hey, it is what it is. So, overall, pretty decent system. I am still going to be testing this 10105F with an RX6600 XT, so I can give it a little bit of room and actually get some real results that I can compare with the Ryzen 3 3100. So that video will be coming up pretty soon. If you like the video, leave a like on it. I finally hit 400 subs. Thank you very much. Let's keep on pushing and get it to 500 and above so I can start getting on some of these affiliate programs. If you have any comments, any thoughts, any suggestions or anything like that, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm always happy to see those. If you have to dislike the video, okay, fine. But let me know what happened and what I did wrong so I can make it better in the future. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this little 4-core 8-thread processor can do when it's not limited by the GPU, because it definitely it outran the RX560 in this case. And I'll be looking forward to seeing a little bit better results once I get a better video card in there to test it with. So that'll be upcoming, but until then, folks, that is all I have. So I will see you later.